Museum of the Imperial Palace of Manchukuo. The Museum of the Imperial Palace of Manchukuo, simplified Chinese, Wěi Mǎn Huánggōng Bówùyuàn, traditional Chinese, Wěi Mǎn Huánggōng Bówùyuàn, pinyin, Wěi Mǎn Huánggōng Bówùyuàn, lit. The Illegitimate Manchukuo Imperial Palace Museum is a museum in the northeastern corner of Changchun, Jilin Province, northeast China. The palace was the official residence created by the Imperial Japanese Army for China's last emperor Puyi to live in as part of his role as emperor of the Japanese puppet state of Manchukuo. In the People's Republic of China, the structures are generally referred to as the Puppet Emperor's Palace and Exhibition Hall. It is classified as a scenic area by the China National Tourism Administration. History. In 1931, the Japanese took control of the northeast of China, the area of modern-day Liaoning, Jilin, and Heilongjiang provinces, which were historically known as Manchuria. The Japanese created an officially independent state in Manchuria, which they named Manchukuo, which was in reality a puppet state of Japan. In an attempt to lend legitimacy to Manchukuo, the Japanese installed Puyi, the deposed last emperor of Qing dynasty China, as emperor of Manchukuo. Puyi's role was largely a symbolic one as head of state. The one item of state business he was allowed to control was the construction of a new palace. Two groups within the government put forward different plans. The Mantetsu wanted a modern palace design that integrated itself into the new city of sinking modern-day Changchun. The Construction Corps Bureau favored a south-facing palace modeled after the Forbidden City in Beijing. Puyi favored the latter. A site was set aside in the western part of the city for the new palace, and another central location was chosen for the construction of a temporary palace. The western site was soon abandoned, leaving the central site as the main palace. However, with the onset of World War II, resources for construction were diverted. Work on the palace halted in 1943, and as a result, the new palace was never completed. Without a proper palace, Puyi was instead accommodated in a building outside the urban area, near the railway lines. The building had previously been the offices of the Salt Gable, lending the building the nickname of the Salt Palace. The building was really unsuitable for its purpose. It was small and cramped for the palace of a head of state. Puyi was resident at this palace from 1932 to 1945. On the 8 August 1945, the Soviet Union declared war on the Empire of Japan. The Soviet Red Army invaded Manchuria from the north. By 20 August 1945, the Red Army had overrun almost all of Manchukuo. The Japanese Empire surrendered unconditionally, ending World War II, and simultaneously Manchukuo ceased to exist. Puyi fled the palace, attempting to reach Japan by plane, but was captured by the Soviets. The palace and surrounding city were looted. In 1962, the structures were preserved and opened as the Museum of the Imperial Palace of Manchukuo, simplified Chinese, Wěi Mǎn Huánggōng Bówùyuàn, traditional Chinese, Wěi Mǎn Huánggōng Bówùyuàn. The exhibits were expanded with that of the Jilin Provincial Museum in 1982 and renovated in 1984. The entire complex was renovated in 2004. The palace was the actual setting in Bernardo Bertolucci's 1987 biographical film of Puyi, The Last Emperor, depicting Puyi's reign as Emperor of Manchukuo. Structures. The Manchurian Imperial Palace was designed as a miniature version of the Forbidden City in Beijing. It was divided into an inner court and outer court. The outer or front court was used for administrative purposes, and the inner or rear court as the royal residence. The palace covers an area of 43,000 square meters. The inner court includes the private living quarters for Puyi and his family. Its main structures include the Dixie Building on the west courtyard and the Tang Hall on the east courtyard. The outer court contained buildings for affairs of state. Its main buildings include the Kinmen Building, the Huanyuan Building, and Jilin Hall. The architecture of the buildings is in a wide range of styles: Chinese, Japanese, and European. Within the complex were gardens, including rockeries and a fish pond, a swimming pool, air raid shelter, a tennis court, a small golf course, and a horse track. Around the courtyards were 9 two-story blockhouses for the Manchukuo Imperial Guard, and the entire complex was surrounded by high concrete walls. Dixie Building. The Dixie Building Kaizai-lu was the Russian-style private living quarters for the emperor and his immediate family. It contained Puyi's bedroom, reading room, the family hall, Buddhist chapel, and the separate quarters for Empress Wenrong and the concubine Ten Yuling. Originally, it was the office building of the Jilin Heilongjiang Exclusive Transportation Bureau and was built in the early 20th century. Tang Hall. The Tang Hall Tang de Dian is the largest and most impressive of the buildings in the palace and has the most luxurious interior decoration. Originally the Jilin Salt Tax Collection Office, and therefore sometimes referred to as the Salt Palace, Japanese engineers remodeled it from 1936 to 1938. However, Puyi refused to use the building as he believed it to be bugged. The main hall was the setting for a dance party scene in Bernardo Bertolucci's film The Last Emperor, although it was never actually used for that purpose. The imperial concubine Lai Yukin was housed in the east part of the second floor. The building today contains the Manchukuo throne, various pieces of furniture, some replicas of the crown jewels, flags, some dresses and uniforms, a copy of the Manchukuo Declaration of Independence, and other official items. High behind the throne is the national coat of arms, with a 5-point star in different colors representing the 5 nationalities of Manchukuo: Manchu red, Chinese yellow, Mongol blue, Japanese white, and Koreans black. Kinmen Building. The Kinmen Building, Kinmen-lu, was Puyi's office building. In its southeast corner is a large room where Puyi received foreign ambassadors and consuls, and issued certificates of appointment and conferred medals to his government officials. The Kinmen Building housed the Manchukuo throne, which has now been moved to the Tang Hall for its museum display. Historical artifacts on display in the Kinmen Building include documents and photographs from Puyi's childhood to adulthood and wax figures of Puyi with one of his wives. Additional exhibitions highlight war crime atrocities from World War II, such as incidents related to Unit 731. Shixiu House. Shixiu House Zhaizuxuan was a detached structure built in the early 1930s. It was used as an informal dining hall by Emperor Puyi. A portion of Puyi's cash and jewels were kept in the 2 safes in the back apartment. After Puyi's second younger sister married Jing Guangyuan, they lived here for a time. When the Tang Building was completed, this structure was transformed into a school for the children of the palace employees. Changshan House. Changshan House Changchun was another detached structure designed as a mirror image of Shixiu House to maintain symmetry in the palace layout. At first, the 4th and the 5th younger sisters of Puyi lived here. In July 1937, it was the residence for Puyi's father, Prince Chun, when he visited briefly to congratulate Puyi on becoming emperor. Afterwards, the residence was used by the imperial concubine Tan Yuling. Huiyuan Building. The Huiyuan Building Huiyuan-lu was built in the autumn of 1934 as an office for the Manchukuo Imperial Household Agency, housing the Imperial Secretariat and various inner palace departments. It also contained the Fengxian Chapel where Puyi worshipped his ancestral portraits and memorial tablets. Sihayuan. The Sihayuan was another structure of the inner palace. Dating from the early 20th century, it was originally the mansion of Wei Zonglian, the head of Jilin Heilongjiang Exclusive Transportation Bureau. After the creation of the palace, it was used as an office for the executive department, housing the offices of the Japanese vice minister and related officials.